Q&A Friday. What is the benefit of knowing your aesthetic style? Why would you want to know what your aesthetic style is? And more specifically, people often will ask, like, if someone already has a sense of their aesthetic, what's the difference? Why the specific methodology that you talk about? And the simplest way to explain it is that this approach that I've created with your aesthetic style and based on looking at the essence and the elements and principles of design and knowing what inspires you and why is sort of an inward out approach. Like typically when we talk about aesthetic, there isn't actually a clear way to talk about it. Like people will say, you know, you ask them how to describe what their style is or their aesthetic, and usually you have to use like a bunch of words, right? Or you start talking about certain people that inspire you or certain trends and mix it. And what I've done with your aesthetic style is just simplify that you can define it in 2-3 words, and that is the essence of what your style is, and they're based on these elements and principles, which are building blocks that apply to all realms of visual design. So in the simplest way, the difference with your aesthetic style and the program that I've developed in my business is looking first inward at knowing what you like, but not just what you like, but why. What are the consistent patterns you're following? And then taking that outward versus the typical sort of approach and way to explain style is looking outward and then taking that inward. So you talk about, okay, this trend, I'm super into bohemian style, for example, and you have a bunch of those images, but how to really interpret it and make it your own gets more complicated because within bohemian style, there's a lot of different things, right? There's some people who are super, super colorful and lots of colors and patterns. Some define it as just like a lot of plants in your home. You know, there's all that. And so there isn't this sort of clear, simple way to define what your style is, aesthetic. And that is exactly what I've created, is a simple way to explain it. And the way we do, what I've developed is just a quiz that is called the Your Aesthetic Style Quiz, and it's through Pinterest, and you look at these images that inspire you, but the focus is on finding, like, going inward versus like starting inward. I guess that's what I describe. Because once you have that combination, then you go and see and take from the outward things, like from the bohemian style and everything, take that into yours and make it your own. And yeah, just a very concrete example from my own life is that I always was using this in art. When I would paint, I would always start out my painting thinking like it needs some kind of color in it. I loved exploring with the color wheel, so I knew that was my sense of style, and then often I would add balance to the painting because that's what made me feel like it looked okay. That was kind of like my checking point. And then I started doing this when I dressed my clothes. So it wasn't like, so even though I would go to shops and I would see things that inspired me, I always knew, like, if I buy, for example, I have a lot of colorful shoes. I could show you my flip-flop like this, aqua shoes. And I buy them because I buy them to match my shirt. Because for me, it's really important to have that color and balance. So I would like a shirt that's that color and shoes in that, and then I'm balanced. Do you get it? So that's one way where I use that as my inner, knowing what I really love, to take out and buy instead of just sort of thinking like, oh, that's a cool trend and buying it first and then figuring it out inward. All right, so that was Q&A, the first Q&A Friday today. And as always, I'm open. If you have questions, just let me know, send me a PM, and have a great weekend. And if this was interesting to you or inspiring, please share it and let others know. Spread the love. Bye.